So, here we are, new Doctor Who showrunner time. Anyway, by now most people watching this probably know that my overall impression of Chris Chibnall's work is... What? Oh, sorry. Drifted off there. So regular viewers will know that I've not exactly been all that thrilled with Chris Chibnall becoming the showrunner, especially based on what he's offered the Whoniverse so far, but the more I thought about my general impression of Chibnall as a writer, the more I kept being bugged by the question, have I been too flippant? It's very, very easy to write Chibnall off as the Michael Bay of Doctor Who based on what he's written for the show so far, as some of it's been downright awful, and the rest of it's been alright, I guess. But why haven't lots of his episodes worked for me, and why am I apathetic about him becoming the new showrunner? Is my opinion based on something substantial, or is it just because I associate his name with...
When we woke up the next morning, a dog was pissing on our tent.
Because Chibnall's creative CV showcases his ability to work with all manner of subjects. I haven't exactly liked much of it, but if you actually look at his list of writing credits in a broader context, it paints a picture of a much more mercurial figure in Doctor Who history than if you just went off your surface level impression of having watched 42 once or twice. So I wanted to have a look back over his past work to see if my caution approaching his showrunnership has actually been justified or not. And given I hadn't seen most of the episodes with his name on the writing credit in years, a total rewatch of the entire Chris Chibnall Doctor Who and Torchwood oeuvre appeared to be called for. And given I can barely remember 8 things that happened in most of these, I needed some company to keep me from blacking out from boredom, so throughout this video you'll be hearing excerpts of my rewatches of Chris Chibnall penned Doctor Who and Torchwood episodes, accompanied by varying lineups including John Granston, Billy Tracy, and Richard B from 5 Who Fans. The full and uncut commentaries are available in the Cheapskate package on my Patreon, in a feature that we like to call Snuggly Chibnall Time. It feels very unfair to attempt to draw any conclusions about what kind of writer Chris Chibnall is based on his early Torchwood episodes, because they're very different to anything he's done before or since, and also there was a lot of experimentation going on at the time. Everyone on board was still in the process of figuring out that the show did not work in the way that Russell T Davies initially envisioned it working. That doesn't make Day One any less shit, of course, but I personally find it shit in a funny way because it's trying so desperately hard to prove how mature and adult the new show is, just with its premise being about an alien gas that possesses a lady who then goes around fucking people to death.
Viewers will know that this set still exists as part of the, or did exist as part of the Doctor Who experience.
Did it?
No!
Really?
Oh, I can believe it!
Hey kids, come reenact this! That's what sex is, Doctor Who nerds. Do you know what sex is?
It happens like this, just boom.
And don't they see it on the CCTV
Yeah, it's on
later?
the CCTV.
Is there always CCTV in the bathrooms? Is that legal? So that was the set. Again, that's what sex is, Doctor Who fans.
And that's what people say while they're masturbating, Doctor Who fans.
I think it was worth it for that reaction, though.
I think the reaction's fantastic.
The characterisation of most of the core team in the early episodes was pretty terrible. Most of them come across as either a dreadful human being or a complete cipher, and they don't exactly give newcomer to the team Gwen a warm welcome. When she accidentally unleashes the alien sex gas, she genuinely has the excuse, "it's my first day," and the rest of the team spend most of the runtime being immature and passive-aggressive to her over it, which is something that I expect of children. Like, this is episode 2 in the series. Is this really how you want to flesh your characters out?
Like she said, she's responsible for this.
Fuck her. Let her die. They do attempt to include some moments of levity. I liked the occasional scenes with Rhys, and there's the odd bit of conversation here and there that try and introduce some kind of human element alongside the mad alien stuff. But when I say that, I'm obviously not talking about this shit. Oh god, this bit. I remember this bit. Let's stop the episode so that so everyone can have a
just, place the camera in the room and just like film the actual cast whilst they were trying to have lunch.
Did this predate Come Dine With Me? Because this is essentially Torchwood Come Dine With Me. Did Torchwood invent Come Dine With Me?
Yeah, all it needs to do now
so,
is cut to
fuck this
Yanto, like, being a bit bitchy about one of the other guests.
I'm going to bring it back to and just say I like that they discuss important like sci-fi gobbledygook while walking around drinking morning coffee. I just appreciate the human element to that.
Yeah, I suppose that's something.
Why aren't they all naked though?
That's a good
Because then it would be like, oh, this is a bit grown up. Almost like they were thought to be too good for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? Did she just turn around and pout at us?
So, I think it's a montage of her printing stuff.
Yeah, I'm printing stuff, and I'm sexy while I'm printing. Doing all the printing.
People saying that like series 4 was missing something. I think it was missing printing montages. Characters turning around and looking at things printing. Is that Jack's?
Look, I've got a green flashy thing.
I remember thinking, oh, is that going to be his sort of sonic screwdriver? And then it never shows up again.
Yeah, like what's he doing? He's just sort of waving a green flashy thing on a board.
Yeah, what are you trying to do?
What is he doing there? It's like when they say to extras, just do something in the background, but he's a main character doing something in the foreground. It's like, what?
You can't help but focus on him.
Yeah, because you got that famous shot in one of the James Bond where there's a man that's sweeping, but not really sweeping, because he's not actually touching the floor.
Still, as said, I don't really blame anyone for Day One. While it does feel like Doctor Who fanfiction written by a horny teenager who doesn't really know what they're doing, it is so bad it's funny in parts. So, yeah, while there's not really that much chance of us getting this Chris Chibnall in Series 11 at all, the sadistic part of me is kinda secretly wishing that we do. What I would love is if there was a commentary track of Chris Chibnall doing this straight face to say the most important thing about this episode of Torchwood is it taught Doctor Who fans the facts of life.
The key word.
This is where babies come from.
The key word for this episode is family.
Family.
It's all about family. I could be saying it at this moment, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Love conquers all. It's all about family. While Day One was a Gwen-centric episode, Cyberwoman is a Yanto-centric one, and they're both rubbish in very similar ways, but it's interesting to me how the approach in both of them is, hey, let's make the entire team hate the character that we're focusing on this week. Now, Cyberwoman has a hugely negative reputation, but like with most things with a hugely negative reputation, brackets aside from 50 Shades of Grey, which deserves everything it gets, I do feel that Cyberwoman shitness has been greatly exaggerated. That doesn't stop it being a mess, of course, but it's the downright bizarre creative decisions that make it legitimately so bad it's funny to me. What's that thing that he's using?
Yeah.
Has he got a sonic screwdriver as well?
Everyone
Do
does.
they just, in this universe, do people just have buzzy things that they just make it look like they're doing something?
I love the little skeleton in the jar! Why has she got fruit? Why has she got fruit? I'm sorry, I'm just noticing these things.
Fruit.
In case she wakes up and wants some fruit.
I'm still reeling from that skeleton.
What is the skeleton?
I want them
to get to see the skeleton again.
Oh, I want there to have been, I know this probably didn't happen, but I want there to have been a deleted scene where he's picking up the skeleton and going, look at this, remember who you are. You know, it's kind of cute in its own strange little way. I can kind of see what Chris might have been going for in this, in that it's basically taken the bare bones of Dalek and attempted to recreate it in a different context. Base under siege, enclosed locations, chased by a classic Who monster, base loses power, she draws power from the base. But it just doesn't work nearly as well in this case, because you totally lose your suspension of disbelief when you stop and think about pretty much anything that's happening on screen for more than about 2 seconds. How has Yanto snuck a cyber conversion unit and a part-converted cyber girlfriend into the hub without Jack noticing?
Carefully.
Yeah, but if this is a cyber conversion unit that can actually cyber convert people, why hasn't it finished with her?
And also, why did Yanto bring it along with all of like the spare Cybermen pieces? I'm assuming that's where it is.
Yeah, did he have to take out all of the surgery? Did he? Yeah, couldn't he have taken out all like the knives that cut?
Yeah,
you
and wasn't it on
Why
fire?
did he bring? Yeah, exactly. Why did he bring this?
Yeah.
What was
There's
he
a skeleton in the jar again!
I just like, wasn't the building was on fire? He was trying to get her out in a hurry, and yet he had time to bring the entire cyber conversion unit.
I imagine him running back in with a sack and going, I need to pick up a Cyberman helmet, this chest plate.
Maybe get some
Yeah,
help
because like,
from a couple
I
of
don't know,
other
maybe he thought
employees.
maybe she would die if she didn't have the whole cyber conversion unit or something. But
I don't understand how the metal plate would be under his jaw.
you know what the first thing that a cyber conversion unit does? The eye. And the bit of the handle.
Yeah, this doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
Wait, Yanto, if Jack hasn't found the cyber conversion room, why don't you just leave the body there?
I mean, what's weird is that those parts are activated but doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, they're just doing it very slowly because the script required it.
Yanto went out of his way to screw that to the ceiling.
Yeah, he would have had to plumb it in. Not only that, but he plumbed it into the electrics.
Just
in case.
The entire premise of this does not work. Here's the thing about a chase sequence. The hub's too small to have a chase sequence.
Exactly, yeah.
She's coming
But
after us very, very slowly.
That is literally the next 20 minutes, though.
What, they're just sort of stuck in a bunch of
And
rooms?
it's not.
Yes, I'm not
You
kidding.
can't really hide from it either.
She's
just
still
like-
walking.
She's
Still
gonna
walking,
get
and
to
then
us
she's going to smash
eventually.
down the doors, yeah?
It's okay.
She must be taking half
It's okay
strides.
because they can't climb stairs.
Cyberman.
You gotta have that scene where they gloat.
Oh,
there
she
they
just
are.
made it.
This is supposed to be like a top secret organisation, and yet they just have the pizza girl wandering in.
Yeah.
Oh no! All the boxes are
And
everywhere.
they're covered in
No.
ketchup too.
The
There's
boxes
the
are on the
You're in
floor.
for a
Have
while.
mercy.
We got soggy
mercy.
pizza. Oh, she swapped her brain out.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like I was saying, that was quick, wasn't it?
Little bit of brain surgery. It's easy. Don't know why people say it's so difficult. Just pop your brain out, put it in another one.
This is ludicrous. I will admit that I do have a bit of a soft spot for Cyberwoman, in spite of it doing almost everything so insanely wrong. I personally found it terribly enjoyable. Emphasis on the word terrible.
I mean, I think what this episode is, it's an allegory for a very, very messy breakup.
Yes.
The worst.
Literally the worst.
Well, at least we know that Chris Chibnall can do allegories, so that's, a good sign.
It's reassuring.
Again, I'll say again, maybe this series he was just working out a lot of
Like-
shit from his teenage years. Like that time he had to fight off a sex monster. Little teenage me loved Countrycide and thought it was the best episode of Torchwood Series 1, but upon rewatching it, I'm really struggling to pinpoint why. My best guess would be that I hadn't seen nearly enough horror movies to give myself the context that would have helped me see just how unoriginal it was.
I'm sure I've seen this somewhere as well. There's no such thing as an original story, though, to be fair.
No, this doesn't look exactly like the chase sequence from Texas Chainsaw Massacre at all.
Oh, the police are here, we're fine. That's another trope, isn't it?
Yeah, they're definitely police. I totally believe that this is the police. It's not really trying to say anything with its material or make itself a distinctive 45 minutes of television. I mean, I didn't hate it upon rewatch or anything, and the set design's pretty good. It's just that now I'm watching this with the context of all the horror and slasher movies that I obsessively watched throughout my late teens, and I start to see that there isn't really enough there to sink your teeth into.
We have to know he's evil because he's going,
I want to eat your flesh. That is my motivation. That is.
like all evil men / puppies make that noise.
To be fair, that's me when I'm coming home and I've got my dinner on.
You sing about the curry you're having later.
Also, I lived in a little Welsh town out in the sticks for several years, and it's probably occurred to pretty much everyone who's ever been to a remote town that, ooh, what if there are cannibals/serial killers here? Because it did to me when I was living there. Also, the Torchwood team come across as incredibly inept in these early episodes. The series was trying to straddle the middle ground between a cool and sexy team of people that you should respect, and a more dramatic, realistic portrait of flawed people. But then you remember that they're supposed to be the best. The opening montage implies that, and yet there's been fuck up after fuck up in episode after episode, most of them caused by a member of the team, that just made me think, why the fuck has Jack not fired any of these people yet?
Now that was just... You didn't have to do that, did you?
Oh.
Why is everyone always leaving their keys in the car? That's just stupid.
I mean, Torchwood as well. Why would you?
Yeah, they're supposed to be outside the government, beyond the police, top secret, like, professionals, and, like, they just fuck things up all the time.
Top secret, beyond the police, but we did sort of leave our keys in the glove box.
Wait, are they implying then that Yanto cleaned up the hub by himself after Cyberwoman?
Obviously.
It's his way of coping with the trauma.
You can picture that scene though, can't you? Gwen going, should we help him? And Jack's like, no, he needs to do this alone.
Why is he putting up police tape when the police aren't even there?
Because it's Yanto, just give him like pointless tasks.
I feel like they would have bought a caravan. I feel like this is going
Intense. Yeah.
I want to know what the Torchwood caravan looks like. Does it have Torchwood engraved on it? Is it like shiny and black as well? For like lights.
Stealth caravan.
Oh my god! Now I'm imagining. I remember watching Sooty and Sweep when I was a kid, and they had a camper van. I'm now imagining Sooty and Sweep hunting down the sex monster.
I mean, back to the Torchwood caravan, because it's incredibly important. But do you imagine it being the size of the actual set?
That wouldn't exactly be that inconspicuous, though, would it? For, like a top secret organisation that has its headquarters like behind a door in the Millennium Centre, or was it? And who the pizza company know where they are and deliver to them all the time.
Yeah.
And now they're in the countryside in a bunch of tents.
Not very discreet.
I think that should be the pre-titles now. Torchwood, behind a door.
So, yeah, I didn't hate it or anything. Being a subpar mini horror movie made entirely out of recycled material isn't exactly the worst thing in the world, but it doesn't really make it something to recommend either. Okay, this one's really fucking weird, right? So, we start out with people from the past and the future coming through the rift and fetching up in Cardiff, Roman soldiers and plague victims. There are people infected with deadly diseases from the past and future, and no one's got any idea how to combat it. That's an amazing idea, it really is. But pretty much all of it happens off screen. What the fuck? How could you just go... Really, is no one else seeing this?
I do quite like this as an idea, like the idea that Black Death can come through the rift.
Oh, yeah, this
I
was
like that.
Kind of horrifying.
I like that as well, but they don't do anything with it.
That's like the theme tune.
Wait, so Jack just went in to interrogate that Roman soldier guy, and we didn't see it. Happened off screen.
Well, that's so we can have the lovely chat with PC Andy.
Yeah, but why didn't they do that earlier in the series? So now the Roman soldier is unconscious, so he can't have any impact on the narrative other than just existing.
Oh, by the way, I just realised as well, Jack's using his sonic screwdriver.
Oh, yeah. His object that he's been given to make it go, look, I'm doing something. It's
this
an
one
action.
makes a line.
Okay, this needs context. So, between 2005 and 10, the finales in Russell-era Doctor Who and related shows mostly seemed to be encouraged by someone to be these big apocalypse stories. It's the last episode in the current series, and everyone expects it to go out with a bang. But because Torchwood was this cheap little BBC Three sideliner to the main show, and it appeared that the budget had run out by the end of the series, and they felt like they had to spend most of what they had left for this one on the massive pointless monster that adds nothing to the narrative, what End of Days turned out to be was this massive high-scale apocalypse story full of interesting ideas and potential that's been forced to economise by shoving the interesting bits of it off screen and spending most of the runtime inside in the existing sets, focusing almost entirely on the main characters wailing at each other, which we'd already had more than enough of by this point in the series. And whenever we're anywhere else in one of those exterior locations that they have nowadays, it doesn't exactly look like the end of the world, does it? Where is everyone?
But you can see behind them that like, people just walking around normally. You'd think there'd be chaos.
Yeah.
I suppose they don't know I guess the extent
supposed
of it
to be
isn't
the end
as
of the
bad as
day.
that.
End of days.
It's only the Black Death knocking about.
Yeah, I mean, you'd still go to the shops if there was Black Death, right?
It's a really quiet club as well. Do you think at the end of days, like, pubs and clubs would be a bit more, populated? So there's like no one there.
Well,
maybe they're all
it is in the
they're all
middle of the
dead.
day, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe they're all dead from
I
the
don't know
Black
why
Death.
it's open at this time.
And there's like no one in this club. Like, you think they could hire a few extras?
I think there's one person sitting in the back there.
So one, yeah.
I had a friend who was an extra in Torchwood.
Oh, cool.
Is that them? Sitting in the back of the club?
Hi, welcome to your first day on set of Torchwood. Okay, could you just sit over there? There's no one else here. Just drink this.
Drink this bit and make sure you look really edgy and sort of adult. Because this is going on BBC Three, don't forget.
think dark thoughts.
Very grown up.
We're just going to be playing lots of music by The Cure, and maybe some.
And we
Philip
might
Glass.
ask you to get naked occasionally just to prove how grown up it is.
every single every shot that we always do a naked take, and it might get used, it might not, but it's really important that we keep our options open. Oh, let's be honest here though, they've run out of money at this point.
Yeah, they could. Actually, that's probably the reason they did nothing with that idea.
They spent as much money as they could on it. Right, we've got the hazmat suits, we've got a man in a Roman uniform. I'm sorry, but that's as far as we can go.
We got a bloke in the bar to make it look like it's got people in it. There are some things to like about End of Days. Billis is good, he's a genuinely intimidating villain, and the fact he's left unexplained lends him a degree of mystery, but it's kind of irritating that he's never seen again after this, and his entire purpose appears to just be to encourage the appearance of the massive pointless monster, whose entire role in the story is over in a matter of minutes anyway. Wow, that was so worth it. Oh yeah, and it really, really fucking annoys me that there's never any consequences for Gwen cheating on Rhys with Owen. I mean, I'm glad that Rhys doesn't die when it looks like he has in this one, because he's one of my favourite characters in the show, but I just think it would have been kind of interesting if they killed Rhys off and Gwen has to live with the guilt that she cheated, then he died, and he never knew. No, please. Please, you were the only interesting character in this show. Really, End of Days is such a mess that I'm struggling to understand why Cyberwoman gets all the hate and this one doesn't. At least Cyberwoman's got a narrative through line in it. This one introduces an interesting idea that's completely forgotten by the end of Act 1, then it just keeps on doing its "and then another thing happened" for the rest of the runtime and going, is that 45 minutes yet? No? Okay then, and then they all saw ghosts of the people that they lost. And then the ghosts want them to open the rift, but Jack doesn't want them to open the rift, and he rants at them all about their character flaws that we've already been smashed in the face with for the past 12 fucking episodes and most of this one.
Toshiko, the poor girl who'll screw any passing alien that gives her a pendant.
Right.
So strong.
Lesbians, right?
Desperate to be mauled.
That's your flaw.
You know, the camp swashbuckling hero that everyone loves. We're going to have him snarling and yelling personal attacks at all of his teammates. And then the big pointless monster appears, and he goes, "Rawr, I am scary." And then Jack dies. And yes, he's actually definitely dead for realsies this time. Yes, he is dead. Yes, Captain Jack is definitely dead. I totally believe that he is dead.
This just goes on too long, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's still going.
Is this like she hasn't slept for days and she's literally just been sat there for days? Is that what's happening?
Apparently.
Okay.
I know. It's just
I mean, she doesn't have to. She could just be like, "Well, I think we should leave him in the infirmary for a bit. He doesn't smell that bad yet. Let's just,
let's just leave him out just in case." Oh wait, so she kissed him and then he came back to life. Wait, so she kissed him and he came back to life. Does Gwen have restorative powers then?
Yes.
Yes.
That's canon now.
Absolutely.
Oh my god!
Sure.
Oh my god! The last 5 minutes of the episode were pointless.
Yeah, maybe it would have worked if they hadn't just dragged it out this much. See, I quite like this aspect of it though. Owen's broken.
Because they're a family. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all about family. It's a show about family.
And then after all that, it's still fucking going. Can you just pick an ending and go with that? Ooh, I got one. Jack is dead, end of series. Then the series opener of 2 is how he comes back to life. But no, it's still going, and then another thing happened. No, we're not finished the episode yet, Stuart. Why won't you die, End of Days? Why won't you die? As much as I think it's shit, I actually kind of wish that it continued with its and then another thing happened and then
just to see how many how far it can go until you've completely forgotten what the start of the episode had been.
Yeah, so it's like, and then Gwen and Reese bought a puppy or something.
But then the puppy got run over, and then Reese gets a cat.
Yeah, Reese gets a cat, and then Yanto and Jack go dogging or something. Yeah, if anyone from Big Finish is listening, Yanto and Jack go dogging. Two box sets. I've got 2 box sets in that. In spite of all this, I did find End of Days alternately excruciating and kind of enjoyable because you can make a game out of checking off just how many things are wrong with it.
I don't understand this. Why is Yanto just reading the Bible? Like what?
Because it's the Book of Revelations. That's the theme. Linked
He
theme
read the episode
thing.
title and thought, better make this biblical. Oh, the best bit's coming up.
This is a bit we've waited 3 weeks for.
Right, we don't have to watch anymore now. That's it. Well, thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in.
I just go into his cell and be like, "Lorem ipsum, I'm a ants," and he'd be like, "All right, mate, calm down. Bit of Latin joke there for you. Bit of Latin joke."
It's a shame we're not educated enough.
We're Philistines, Richard.
feel
Someone slapped their bum to a tune and we thought that was funny.
I'm sorry, but nothing will top that.
It's all downhill from there, really, isn't it?
When they release a best of Chris Chibnall DVD set.
It's just short clips.
Could just be a YouTube video, really, the best of Chris Chibnall. I hadn't seen Chibnall's first Doctor Who episode 42 in years like with most of these, but I remembered what it looked like surprisingly vividly because it was directed by Graham Harper, who is probably the best director that Doctor Who has ever seen. Those crisp and golden colours set against the dirty and grimy industrial backdrop of the spaceship make it look visually striking. Yep, this place is definitely close to the sun alright because it's all gold. You see, the colour implies what the place that they're in is.
Isn't that is it an MRI unit from Smith & Jones? Is that not what that prop is there?
Yeah, that looks like it.
Just spray paint it red.
Just painted it red. Yeah, paint it red.
That means it's hot now.
It matches the colour scheme.
Maybe if they did an episode in a cold place, they could paint it blue and they could just use the same thing.
They've painted it red and added stickers and things. So
Well, if you're going to buy an MRI scanner, you might as well, customise it.
I remembered the visuals, but the only problem was that I couldn't remember anything else about it. My mind just sort of went blank on all fronts, and it's partly the pacing of the thing that's the problem. By incorporating the real-time element, whereby they've got 42 minutes to stop the ship from falling into the sun, everyone's propelled into immediate action, which you'd think would make it dynamic, but the result is that there isn't really enough time to offer anything that happens much in the way of meaning, or any kind of human connection that might hook me in and help me to give a shit. Yeah, I suppose that was I think that was another of my problems with 42. It goes too quick.
why? How long is it?
No, like the action on screen is going too quickly. She goes, "Oh, it's my husband." Yeah, I care because I met you like 6 minutes ago, and you've been doing shit the entire time, and I haven't had a chance to like slow down.
Yeah, that's a good point. We never saw them in like a state of grace before this.
Yeah, so the drama of this is kind of nothing. And also, while watching, we discovered something. The counter doesn't line up with the runtime.
That was never 7 minutes between those two scenes.
No, that wasn't 7 minutes, because I'm looking at the timer going now, and we're only 8 minutes into the episode. And the first couple of minutes didn't have... There's the title sequence, and the first couple of minutes didn't have the timer. You lied to us, 42.
And this is the man we've let responsible for all of Doctor Who. This liar!
Damn you, Chris Chibnall, for not managing to get the timer to line up. But then again, that's got nothing to do with him, so...
This was definitely his fault.
No, he should have sat down and figured out exactly how long it would take each actor to deliver their line. And then add notes in the script saying, you should spend 3 seconds on this.
No, he did say well quite long. Well, it's something.
Yeah, we're underrunning. We're underrunning and we can't put it in slow motion anymore.
He should have gone through it with David and gone, at this point, David, you need to say well 10 seconds longer than you normally do. Then we'll make the
David
action.
Tennant is the closest the Doctor gets to Scooby-Doo as a character.
Hang on, am I? I'm looking at the time code. Okay, 16 minutes in. It should be called 4T because they're really not following it.
I suppose they weren't hoping for people to actually stop with a stopwatch.
No, they weren't anticipating on anally retentive fucks like me.
The one pro of this episode is that it checks your watch for you.
This is the thing, I mean, I bet what happened is Chris Chibnall wrote this in 42 minutes and he was like, well, it took 42 minutes to write.
That's not how it works. 2 minutes to read. I mean, it's close, so, that's a pretty impressive feat. It'd be hard to get the action to line up with the counter precisely, but it's just a bit of a pisser narrative-wise when your gimmick, which you didn't even need at all for the story to work, actively takes away from the experience of watching the episode, because it meant that I wasn't really invested in these people at all. Hell, the only noticeable thing about any of the characters in 42 was just that everyone's caked in sweat for almost the entire runtime. Ooh, so sweaty.
Everyone's very sweaty.
Wasn't it actually really, really cold when they were filming? And they had to keep rubbing grease on each other.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God, that's dedication to average TV.
It sounds so uncomfortable.
I'm being taken out of the episode because I'm just imagining the grease guy with a big bucket of grease going around, putting a paintbrush in it or something. And just...
Yeah, I imagine he's got a stick with a sponge at the end with a bucket of grease. And then every now and again, David Tennant's like, "Grease boy, I need greasy."
I'd be very upset if there isn't like someone credited as the Grease Man in the closing titles of this.
Okay, credits. So, okay, pay attention now. So, unit manager.
I suppose they didn't have speaking.
No, grease guy, no.
I mean, continuity was not keeping continuity of the grease.
I like towards the end of the credits it just starts shouting at us.
Ron Grainer!
Caps lock on. I suppose the monster's kind of inventive, but what interested me when I was watching 42 and trying to pin down precisely why I was having such a hard time remembering anything that happens in it beyond my issue with the pacing, was that in terms of assembly, almost everything in it is completely interchangeable. I've talked about Doctor Who's rigorous usage of formulas before and how they can serve a purpose, yes, but an over-reliance on them can do more harm than good in the long run, and this one's a pretty apt demonstration of the problem with them. Setup. Run away from monster down some corridors. Doctor spouts some technobabble in the exact same inflection. Solves a problem. There is another one. Ooh, look, they've got to solve pub quiz machine questions to open doors. That's our dose of quirky. I am the monster. Little bit of romance with random incidental character. Oh my god, a person for the Doctor to save. Doctor saves person. 42 is essentially a template. If you ask any non-fan what any episode of Doctor Who at all typically plays like, 42 is almost exactly the description that they'd offer you. That's why I couldn't remember a whole lot of distinctive things about it, because what's in it doesn't matter. In terms of mechanics, you can at least say it's perfectly assembled. It is a 10th Doctor episode. That's about it though. Doing a big speech thing.
Oh, Martha! Oh!
Let's try and focus on whatever they're doing.
They're doing space things.
Oh, an auxiliary engine and a Simpsons. Oh, nice.
So it's really easy to just put noises in.
Like you could just replace him with an oven glove that's making movements and going. He gets the job done just as well.
It's total temperature 100 degrees, but the oxygen replacement. What? That's impossible.
I like that she stayed still in like a jazz hands posture.
Yeah.
Well,
if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna make it look good. That's another good pose. I'd get it so that like each of the four members that are burnt do the YMCA. They should set each other that challenge.
So yeah, I didn't hate 42 or anything. Like with most of Chibnall's work, I found it competent. Almost too competent. In fact, so competent that pretty much any and all distinctive features it has are coming from other aspects of the production that he's got nothing to do with.
Wait, John has a spaceman voice.
You see,
he does a very good Professor Brian Cox.
hello. I've got to try and remember it now. Space is big, really big. Think of the biggest thing you can think of.
But it's bigger than that.
I'm holding a basketball, and I'm in a basketball court, and that's how big our planet is to our solar system. And out there in space, there's a star so big, it's larger than my arms, which are stretched wide right now. It's so big. You see this pink... I'm standing on Mount Everest.
For some reason.
And if I drop this ping pong ball, by the time it falls to the bottom, we won't have experienced a day's rotation.
I'm just picturing now,
but we'd have gone faster.
Brian Cox going to like all these like absurd places just to demonstrate a point about scale, like sending him scuba
Brian
diving.
Cox and I'm underwater. The difference between Torchwood Series 1 and Torchwood Series 2 is like night and day. I am still shocked it got a second series at all. It wasn't as if the ratings were all that brilliant. The only explanation is that either someone high up really believed in this show, or Series 2 only really made it to air at all because Russell was committed to having stolen Earth in Doctor Who, having all of his shows cross over into this one big bombastic conclusion. It's certainly a long shot to suggest that, of course, as there's no point in making TV at all if there's not much of an audience for it. But if either of those were the only reasons we got a Series 2, then thank God for that, because A, Children of Earth came after this, and B, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and most of what followed is surprisingly good fun. It kind of brushes all of the shit things about Series 1 to one side. Wait, it's slowing up, everyone pay attention now because this is the character-y bit.
They're talking now.
This is where their relationship starts to develop.
Yeah, because last season they basically just sort of started fucking and then that was it.
It was kind of just a joke
in series 1 almost.
Yeah.
Just sort of happening.
Because that's what relationships are, just occasional fucking, that's it. Show for grown-ups, people, show for grown-ups.
Depends on your relationship.
I like that nihilistic approach.
It's not quite a soft reboot, but things look and feel incredibly different right from the outset. The style and the tone of the show has noticeably shifted. It was like Chris realised just how stupid Torchwood was and that it's basically just Scooby-Doo but with aliens and knobbing, and played it a bit more tongue-in-cheek and less indulgent in overwrought melodrama, which are the two things that I came out of Series 1 thinking the show should have done. This is learning from your mistakes in the best way, and a very good sign going forward. We got this cheesy opening sequence where this fish monster spits some stuff out about their character flaws. There's a few bits and pieces of all the angst and inter-character conflict shit from last season peppered throughout the runtime, but they don't dwell on it, we just get it out there and move on. It's very fluid, the action progresses at a nice pace, and it works its character conflicts into the story with great efficiency.
Is Jack and Gwen a thing?
Yeah, this is weird.
Sort of a little bit. See, at the end of the day, it's all about family.
Getting married?
And it's educational.
There's always got to be that moment where you just say, at the end of the day, it's all about family. That's what the show is.
I want, if there was a Series 5 of Torchwood, it should end with Jack marrying Gwen and Reese and like becoming a 3-person family.
It's also important to point out that it looks amazing. The move to BBC Two definitely had a lot to do with that, because it would have had a lot more money chucked at it. Series 1 alternately looks like an asylum movie or a porn, depending on how grown up we're planning on going this week. In Season 1 it was as though they were given really good equipment, but the budget didn't cover for any production value, so it looks as cheap as it is. Here though, the colours are really crisp, in scenes set in the dark you can see perfectly what you're supposed to be seeing, and it's got some really inventive shots in it. The directing is just superb. See, credit to Ashley Way for this, because she's made like a confrontation scene which is filmed on the top of a car park look really nice.
After it's rained by the look of it as well.
Like a fucking car park in Wales in the rain shouldn't look this nice. And another thing to note, and this is an important one, this is Chris calling the shots. He was in control over what he was doing here. His episode of Doctor Who under Russell, and his episodes under Stephen, and his episodes of Torchwood in its early days emerging from an idea by Russell, all of them are technically competent, if underwhelming, but they appear to have been significantly moulded to suit the style of the seasons that they were a part of. A writer should be able to tailor their work to the market, of course, and be capable of writing what they're asked to write, and Chris has demonstrated time and time again that he can do that, which speaks to his status as a professional, but I may have gotten this impression that Chris is a boring and unadventurous writer in the past, because any kind of distinctive personality that his writing may have had appears to have been sanded off on the occasions that Chris has been writing a story for the express purpose of it fitting into the environment of a series that's been curated by someone else. Torchwood Season 2 is different because this is just Chris. He's the head of the project, he knows what Torchwood is now, he's done a series of it and learnt from his mistakes, and he's just trying to write something schlocky and fun, but minus the attempts to imitate the dramatic relationship-based background that Russell came from, that he did very poorly in his episodes from Series 1 that were roundly slated.
Maybe behind the scenes, him and Russell sat down and had a good meeting where they kind of got a couple of post-it notes out and were just like, let's have these be the beats and let's go that way. Or maybe it was all him.
Okay, let's not have a sequence where Jack just sort of gets a flashy thing out and he goes, ooh, I'm doing a spacey thing.
Can you imagine Chibnall being like, are you sure that? Are you sure we have to lose that?
No flashy thing that goes, ooh, spacey thing.
That means I've got a lot to cut now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you don't want the sequence where our swashbuckling hero, Captain Jack, screams at all of his teammates about their character flaws for about
There was a whole
5 minutes.
There was a whole fifth Chris Chibnall episode in Series 2 that just had to be cut because it was all stuff like that.
Well, it's like, so you don't want the shouting, instead you want him to talk.
Like a person,
Yes.
like a real person. Okay,
And,
so what you want the characters to be is like people, like actual people. Okay. Be good, not terrible. Okay.
I love how we're still making things at Chris Chibnall's writing when we really enjoyed ourselves tonight.
It's just impossible to stop, isn't it? I emerged from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang a lot more positively than I did from his previous episodes. While it's by no means the best thing ever, he did find his feet here.
Yes, Jack does become the face of Bo because he's immortal and can regenerate, and will somehow that will just end up with him being a big face.
Well, the idea is obviously, you know, as you get bigger, your nose grows, doesn't it? So.
This show is so difficult to explain to anyone else. It's like try explaining Captain Jack's entire story to another person. So then he's like a face or something in a jar.
But it's even harder at the start because you're like, okay, so they meet this guy and he's on a mission to find out 2 years of his life that went missing. Oh, does he ever find out? No, they forget about it and move on.
Stops being.
They never mention it again.
He never makes it his mission statement.
It's
to be
really
fair.
good writing, isn't it? Yeah. Adrift is a strange one because it basically plays out as a demonstration of everything Torchwood should have been from the outset. As I said earlier, it was the overall focus on the drama and relationship side of things and trying to mimic the background Russell came from was where Chibnall fell down in Series 1, but what's different about Adrift is that it's essentially a police procedural, but with a sci-fi twist to it. It's Broadchurch, but instead it's got a setup that's actually interesting. In my opinion, I understand I'm probably wrong, calm down.
I sleep in here some nights. Bury my head in the pillow. Still smells of him. Except the more I do it, the more it smells like me.
That's a nice little line there. I like that.
Yeah, that's really sincere. I wonder if it's interesting. I think like there's a lot of parental themes in Chris's work seem to really be quite good for the most part.
Yeah.
They've threatened us with that in Doctor Who Series 11, haven't they?
They have, yeah.
It's all about family.
If that's his strength, then go for it.
All I've got is questions.
In fact, I was struggling to think of what I'd say to criticise Adrift because it's such a solid bit of actually mature sci-fi.
Sorry, I'm really enraptured by this.
This is a problem because this is a really good episode. We can't really make fun of it.
Yeah, so this isn't going to be entertaining at all, is it?
I'm worried that in a minute we're going to start talking about feelings.
We can just sit back and watch if you want.
I know, but I don't want you to get done for copyright infringement for just posting this on Google Drive without like any alteration, and you haven't even flipped the video around or anything.
I could draw little cartoon stick figures and put them in the background making faces. I'm on a boat, motherfucker. I'm on a boat. Yeah, that was my commentary worth of thing for the.
That's some great commentary, Stu.
That's oh my goodness.
Fair use project. While I hadn't really got this sense of Gwen losing herself in her work and growing more distant in her everyday life up until this point, which kinda detracts from it a bit because Adrift plays that up quite a lot and uses it to hold the entire thing together. There's been nowhere near as much focus on her work at Torchwood as Adrift implies. In Series 1 it was Gwen losing herself in friction with her teammates and cheating on Reese with Owen, which there are still no consequences for and still bother me while we're busy painting this picture of how work affects her seemingly idyllic relationship in this one. Adrift just has Gwen as this really effective, though admittedly cliched, emotionally distant, analytically minded police officer, utilising her detective skills to uncover Jack's secrets.
Oh, we're back to another sexy printing montage.
Do another printing. Sexy printing. Another thing that I like about Adrift is that while this entire premise shouldn't work, in the same way that the entire premise of Cyberwoman doesn't work, why would Jack be hiding this facility of mentally disturbed victims of the Rift from his own team and providing the impetus for Gwen's internal investigation is the key question. But then you remember that about 50% of the events in Season 1 happened because these people are really shit at their jobs.
This is true, they're terrible at secrets and stuff.
Like, the whole of Cardiff knows about them. Like, remember episode 1 of this series? They were driving past that old woman and goes,
Bloody Torchwood.
And the results of Gwen using her heart of the team tenet that's central to her character and getting it thrown back in her face when it turns out the mum was better off not knowing what happened to her son, taking that into account along with the incompetence of most of the team, it makes total sense why Jack would keep this facility top secret. And the moral of the story is, never dream. It is all hopeless. Give up. It would have been better if he was dead.
Oh, God!
Adrift is bloody brilliant, yes, but you could construe it as being lightning in a bottle because its premise only really works because of just how shit the show had been in the past.
Oh god, I think I know what's going to happen.
Coming back in. Work to do.
Jack, we're not finished.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have sex.
Wait, so they did go back in to have sex again because he'd just taken his shirt off?
Yeah, he did, yeah. They had work to do, you know?
I wish that it had just cut back and he was just holding a big pot of lube or something. I remember really liking Fragments at the time, and it seems to have gone down as one of Torchwood's best entries, which is weird for an origin story because flashback episodes showing how main character A met main character B and so forth is kind of a tired and played out concept that induces eye rolling. That an origin stories will never really surprise you because if you don't open the entire show with the origin and then go back to tell it retroactively, then your hands are kinda tied because you got to ensure that everything looks exactly how it was from the start of episode 1, and there'll be a lot of crowbarring in of certain elements there. And also, right from the start of the origin story, you know how it ends, so you'll kind of just be waiting for Owen's fiancée to die like she's obviously going to, and for him to retreat from the world and become the cynical and distant alcoholic that he's been throughout the show so far. If this was season 1, she would have a problem with her heart, and the reason she's dying is she felt too much.
Owen, don't come any closer. But I want to hug you. No, you'll make me feel.
And like the reason that he retreats is that he's learnt to become cold. Don't get me wrong, how Owen became who he was interesting. The thing is with Fragments though, while it is full of compelling character drama and interesting backstories, the problem with it is that it's right at the end of the series when you'd think some of this context should have come a bit earlier. It's kind of cynical in its approach because the show knows it's gonna kill Tosh and Owen in the next one, so it's going, oh yeah, we should probably bother doing something interesting with them so the audience actually gives a shit when we kill them. That, and like with Adrift, Fragments kind of contrives these origin stories out of the ashes of some of the notoriously poor characterization and creative decisions made in season 1, and like with Adrift, some of it only really works because the show was so shit beforehand. Sorry, it took him 100 years to get a promotion.
He really was a terrible... This explains why he's such a bad boss.
It explains everything.
It really does.
The problem probably was that Jack kept going, all the 21st centuries where everything's going to change and we've got to be ready. And everyone's like, oh, that means we're all going to die horribly. We better kill ourselves off now.
I was just trying to sound enigmatic.
An epic wiring montage.
Look, I can spin the board.
Increase the music. Pout at the camera.
Wait, is she making the 12th Doctor's sonic screwdriver?
Or Jack's flashy thing. We
Jack's
need the origin of Jack's flashy thing.
At last, it all comes back together.
I can point it at walls for no reason.
It all makes sense. Fragments is trying to justify the bad creative decisions in Season 1, while at the same time rewriting certain elements of said decisions and kind of retconning a large chunk of Season 1 out of existence, particularly in Yanto's case, because by leaving the origin stories to this late in the show, it's kind of relying on the viewers having forgotten about certain elements of Season 1, which you can't really do when box sets and binge watching take off, which in 2007 when this was broadcast was very much around now. Okay, I have a serious problem with this. So, Yanto, at this point in time, this is how he meets Jack, right?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where's his cyber girlfriend at this time?
Yeah, this
This
isn't matching up.
No, it doesn't. I think that Series 1 is kind of getting retconned already at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're very coupley in the early stages of Series 1 either.
No, they're not. No. That's it. I was about to say, this indicates that back at his flat, he's just got that massive conversion machine just in his spare bedroom.
Do you think he's like fixed all of the saws and things into the ceiling of his flat as well?
Because it's like, if Yanto had only been there for like 21 months, and then a few months in, Jack had discovered that he was storing his cyber girlfriend in the basement.
Yeah, it really indicates that
there wasn't exactly a whole lot of
I thought we had a moment!
Do you remember when you were on top of me with our friends, the genitals?
It's weird, season 2 only really works because season 1 was so bad, and yet it's sort of casting off the bits of season 1 that it doesn't like. It needs season 1, but it doesn't like season 1. It's like it's like a very troubled relationship. I mean, we established that Chris Chibnall can do allegories, but he's done that metaphysically between seasons 1 and 2. It's a troubled relationship between the two of them. Or am I going too meta? I think I might be going too meta. I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's because I'm taking a closer look at these episodes and seeing the holes in them that's ruined the experience. Torchwood's loose approach to its own continuity kinda broke the suspension of disbelief for me. It's such a messy, disorganised and downright bizarre show. It's understandable that classic Doctor Who would break its continuity thousands of times over its decades on the air and fandom had to pick up the pieces and write around all the contrivances. Like, in the old show, didn't they, like Atlantis got destroyed?
Well, actually, there is a very strict canon. The Atlantis cities are twin cities.
That and classic Who serials rarely got repeated back in the day, so continuity didn't really matter as much because casual viewers couldn't go back and check if it all made sense at the time. Torchwood rewrites its own continuity between Series 1 and Series 2, assumes it'll get away with it because broadcast television is typically made, finished and put out and then gone, and largely forgotten about for most of the audience, but when you rewatch and binge watch a series, as people do more often nowadays, and you look a bit closer at shows like Torchwood, a lot of it does just sort of stop working.
It's a bit weird that Torchwood at this point is just 2 people.
Yes.
True. Torchwood is always very understaffed. It's like, like, where's the Torchwood toilet cleaner?
Yeah.
You know, you could have staff and then you could kill them off to give it, some drama.
You could go full on like Shape of Water, where the protagonist is like a cleaner that works in a big secret government facility. It's just interesting that it acknowledges that these kind of secret facilities will have things like cleaners and cooks.
I was there.
I'm sorry, but Jack can't really afford to turn down staff at this point.
No, he can't.
There's no job for you here, and there never will be.
All 2 positions have been filled.
As an event, Exit Wounds really, really works. As a story, not so much. Now, you will already be aware that this is the episode that kills off 2 central characters, Tosh and Owen, mainly because I just spoiled that in the Fragments section, but also because I just said it in this sentence. And my issue is that while their deaths are very well executed, they do feel as though they've been put there to generate a water cooler moment and make up for the episode's weaknesses, more than because they were utterly necessary. Because the revenge plot and lost sibling narrative that takes up the bulk of the runtime is incredibly thin.
Why has he got a noise that can do this? And why did they ignore him?
Because he's bad. And the Weaver was like, ooh, a bad boy.
The arc about Jack's long-lost brother Gray, who was kidnapped as a child and tortured in another dimension and has come back to seek revenge, had been building throughout the series, and yet upon actually getting to it, I did just end up going... Is that it? Oh my god, my long-lost brother!
Does he not call him Bo? We should call him Bo.
Ooh.
He's a baddie.
I do like that they don't delve into Grey's backstory of being tortured and driven mad. It's kept off screen and unimaginable. It's the Lovecraftian approach to a horrific concept. But the problem is that he doesn't exactly look or act like he's been driven mad and is going on a rampage to get revenge on the brother that failed him. I get that the actor, writer and director were going for a cool air of detachment, but it just didn't really line up with the backstory that we were presented with, at least from my point of view. This type of story requires a psychotic, jokerish character, and we only spent about 10 minutes with him in total, so you can't exactly do much to make this feel like the big deal that it's supposed to be in such a short amount of time. I mean, part of the climate of threat and danger that Exit Wounds plays on that's supposed to come from Grey is supplemented by James Masters as John Hart, a much better actor, hamming it up and being genuinely intimidating. I always do just see him as Spike from Buffy, but he's always really fun to watch.
Oh no, it's totally different because his hair's a different colour.
If you shove Tosh and Owen's deaths to one side, Exit Wounds is very campy, cheesy, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not End of Days level stupid, because barely anything is, but it just feels as though Chris has crowbarred in some of these moments where something happens that's designed to make the viewer go, "Ooh, damn bro, that's so harsh," in order to distract you and stop you from thinking about some of its weaker and more contrived elements that are only really there as a means of getting all the characters to where they're supposed to be and to engineer the final outcome.
It reminds me of I probably no one knows this reference, but I forgot about that.
Curse you! No, I've got tomato ketchup on me.
Is that going to turn into to your meme when you get tomato ketchup on you?
It's very annoying, isn't it?
Don't roll onto your front. Spill the ketchup everywhere.
I like how the safety mechanism in a nuclear power plant is like, oh, we need to vent like the nuclear spent fuel or something. Let's just do it into the control center.
Yeah, it's like that booth in The End of Time.
Yeah.
Where it's like, go in the booth and we'll vent it and you die.
That one's even more strange, isn't it? Because it's like,
oh god,
you've got to be in one room or the other.
See, I thought something was going to be made of this because I'm pretty sure I don't think that the Weevils wake up while they're in the cells with them.
You see, the thing about Weevils is they can't climb stairs.
Oh, he did a reference.
Oh. I mean, you'd think he wouldn't need to engineer the story so that we can get to the conclusion where we kill off two main characters, because the long-lost sibling narrative should be guaranteed emotional weight just by being what it is. But when you execute a long-lost sibling narrative poorly, that's obviously not the case, so you gotta compensate somehow. That's why in that Sherlock episode that everyone hates about his secret hidden sister, they probably should have done something big and stupid and out of left field like kill off Mycroft or something, just to distract people from the underdeveloped new character that's just sort of been chucked in there and left to adapt to the story that she's in. Tosh and Owen shouldn't have both needed to die, but they did in this case to make Exit Wounds the big and important series finale that it was supposed to be, because the writing of Grey certainly wasn't doing that on its own.
Billy?
Yeah?
You said that you get emotional in this episode. Are you crying yet?
Oh god, I'm holding back the tears.
Billy, are you crying yet?
Oh, it's like a reverse echo. I'm starting to feel the effects in advance.
So there's one very important question that we haven't answered yet. Okay, Billy.
Yes.
Are you crying?
I'm getting there. I'm really getting there. Tears of frustration.
Hey Billy, you crying yet?
Stop it.
Sorry.
You're quelling the tears.
What's that?
Richard, are you crying yet?
Are you crying? Are you a cry baby?
Cry baby, Richard.
I'm literally weeping buckets.
Are you crying, Captain Jack?
Sorry. You see, we killed off two main characters instead of one. That's like twice as many as most shows do in one go, except Game of Thrones of course. In the end, I could envision Chris realising that Exit Wounds wasn't as impactful as it was supposed to be and going, well, it's a miracle we got this far, we're probably not going to get another series of this, so why not kill off 2 main characters? It might make everyone forget about all of the stupid stuff that we spent most of the runtime doing. I suppose the positive I can draw out of Exit Wounds is that at least it's further evidence that Chris definitely knows what he's doing, and he can identify a problem with and fix a poor story to achieve the desired reaction from the viewer at all costs. Even if in this case Tosh and Owen's deaths are like applying a plaster to a fucking massive gaping wound. He got away with it this time though. This is where we are now, the central server building. Sorry, I think it's just whenever captions come up and shows the time that it's supposed to be now, I can't take it seriously.
I just find it strange that they've not been doing this the whole time. I've been so confused. Where is this place?
What time is it?
This could be Swindon. This could be Swansea.
Really matters what time it is, isn't it?
Is it 6:07 or 6:08? I want to know.
No, it's 6:03.
What?
Yeah, but is it 6:04 now? Has time passed?
Is it in effect that they try and freak you out by it's like they show you the time, it says 6:03, and they hope that it's coincidentally 6:03 when you're watching this, so you look at the clock and you're like, oh my god, wow,
It's happening now. Someone has to do something. Who's got the number for Torchwood?
Oh, so that's why they kept telling us the time. But wait a sec, it said 27 AD, but it didn't say the day or the time.
What is the time right now?
It looks like it's about lunchtime.
I wanted to do like a Life of Brian thing and say like just after tea time.
It's 1901, but what's the time? It's 9:42. Oh my god, it is 9:42! Oh my god, they did it! Series 5 of Doctor Who was pretty strong on the whole, but Hungry Earth and Cold Blood felt like the most phoned in to me, and I think that's because there isn't really much of an idea here. There's little pieces of the story that I liked and wished we could have explored in more depth, but as a complete piece, it just comes across as existing for the sake of it. Every series of the revived show up until this point had brought back a classic Who monster, and Russell had already done the big ones like the Master and the Daleks and the Cybermen, and Chris is essentially a contractor. You ask him to write something, he'll do it, and it'll be mechanically sound. But in this case, since it's pretty much a remake of Doctor Who and the Silurians, if you're familiar with the original like I am, you might be struggling to see much in the way of a point in that. Yeah, thing is though, it is just the Silurians though.
Yeah.
But I think when enough time passes, it's kind of fair game. Like, if your audience if your target audience is 12-year-olds, they're not going to be
of course,
aware of a 1970s story.
I suppose it's essentially a remake then.
Yeah.
He does know at this point that it's the Silurians, right? He would have figured that out. It's one of those things that they sometimes do in Doctor Who where the Doctor forgets a thing that he's fought before.
Well, it could still. I'm sure there's loads of things under the earth that it could still be.
Or it could be spiders, I suppose, from the dawn.
Bear in mind, the Doctor's not read the synopsis, so he's not. He's not like looking on DWSR.
Yeah, he's not exactly going to show up in a location where a weird thing's happening and go, ooh, I wonder which one this is.
I'd love that. I don't know why, but...
Maybe it's the Crotons.
So I had the Daleks recently, so it couldn't be them. I wouldn't have 2 Dalek adventures in a row.
I really like the mum character in this story. She actually kills a Silurian in a desperate attempt to get her son back again. And to give it some credit, there are some scenes with proper dramatic weight in them and everything. Yeah, guess what? Characters actually die in this and don't get brought back to life. Like, actually killed, stone dead and everything. Yeah, anyone remember when that happened? It's pretty much after here when the dramatic weight got sucked out of the show, because this story, for all its flaws, does have some gut punch moments. Particularly the ending where Rory gets killed off and sucked into a crack in time and gets erased from everyone's memories, which just sort of hits you out of the blue. Remember, this was season 5, and Rory dying, or apparently dying to add dramatic weight to the story, hadn't become cliche at this point, and we didn't know if he was coming back. The opening scene where they wave at their future selves across the horizon, and later Amy waves and it's just her with Rory erased from reality, is pretty cool too. I mean, none of this has anything to do with the main story, of course. It's just more interesting than what was actually happening for most of the runtime.
I mean, I don't know how he gets trapped, because that's...
And then the ground went nom and it ate him.
Nom 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 nom.
nom,
Just expecting the hole to turn into a mouth.
Cookies. The pilot, in that they had an evil puddle, this is the evil ground. Everything is evil. There's an evil tree. I'm going to write an episode about an evil stick. Or an evil slug in the flower bed.
Evil slug. It's coming to get you. It's going to eat all of your grand flowers.
It's making anything scary, isn't it? Like Blink taught you to fear statues, but have you ever been taught to fear a twig?
My name is Amy Pond, and you better get me the hell out of here, or so help me, I'm gonna kick your backside!
Oh wait, okay, I'll get you out of here because now I know your name's Amy Pond. That's going to do anything. That was a very poor line, that was. Part 1's easily the stronger of the two, though in terms of ramping up the atmosphere, it's certainly mild. Really, really mild. Oh no, I wonder if the kid is going to die. Oh no, there's a danger there. There's a scary monster that's chasing him through a graveyard. I wonder if he's going to die.
Imagine if he just got impaled. If Stu was writing this...
Yeah, if I was writing this, he would get killed and like his guts would splue out and you'd actually see it. Yeah, because that scene with the kid, I was like, I want the kid to die somehow. I want them to kill.
That's how you watch every television show, Stu. There's nothing new here.
Maybe it was just the special effects budget and the fact that I have a sick mind that they didn't play about with the fact that they're, holed up in a graveyard. The ground is swallowing people. It's a really gothic horror setup, but it does barely anything with it. It's not very adventurous. Chris appears to have just been asked for a Silurian story, and that's what he's delivered alright, but it's a paint-by-numbers Silurian story, if anything.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was there, wasn't
Nothing
it?
particularly. Yeah.
It's just like... There's just nothing there, nothing to grab onto, because there's no reason for it to exist.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Do you know what would be an interesting story for them to actually to do with the Silurians? Is to go back to the time when the Silurians were in control of the planet.
In the meantime,
That is an interesting... Why have they never done that?
But I just go back to the Silurian era and see what their world was like then.
Yeah.
And
that's quite interesting. And then it's like the fallen empire. So yeah, there's not much more to say about this. It works, it was fine, but I now understand why, aside from Rory's death, my brain hit the erase button after the credits rolled last time I watched it. There's no, but where's the grease guy? The grease guy's got to go around and cake them all in sweat because it's all... Because they're close to the Earth's core and there's lots of magma.
I like the idea that if it's the Chris Chibnall episode, they've got to be sweaty.
Yeah.
Chris Chibnall comes in and the grease guy just rubs his hands.
But yeah, it'll be BBC cutbacks that did that. They can't afford the grease guy.
They fired the grease guy. Oh, he's just sitting there in a car park somewhere with his tub of grease.
What am I going to do with all this grease?
Lots of writers have to take up other jobs because it's not a profession that pays particularly well. I can imagine, Chibnall having his own little sweat company.
Sweat company.
What would that be?
Like the next
sweatshop.
I was going to say it's the next level of a sweatshop.
Chibnall's sweatshop. Keeps him in business.
Oh my god.
Do you think Chris Chibnall's sweatshop is like a team of people he's hired? That maybe he based that off. Maybe he based Torchwood on his own experiences working within his sweatshop
And you
team.
know the thing about the Chris Chibnall sweatshop is it's real sweat.
It's genuine
He's got a
sweat.
mine. He's got loads and loads of people that he's kidnapped, and they're all on exercise bikes with like buckets underneath them.
It's just Chris Chibnall just goes round a gym with a bucket
And a sponge
every weekend.
And he just sort of like he gets a sponge, he wipes it on someone's head and just squeeze it into the bucket. This is the grossest thing we've talked about so far. I find just pond life's existence utterly fascinating. Which is odd, because if there's one thing in the entire history of this franchise that could be referred to as completely insubstantial, it's definitely pond life. Did anyone actually see this at the time? Because I sure didn't. We basically had no warning that it was on. It was essentially just 5 60-second sketches about Amy and Rory's life as a married couple being interrupted by the Doctor's wacky, zany adventures that were released over the course of the week leading up to Asylum of the Daleks, and then broadcast as an omnibus acting as a prequel on BBC Red Button for Asylum of the Daleks. I didn't see many people talking about it online, and the impact that it had on even the fandom, let alone the wider audience, appears to have been negligible at best. Pond Life is literally just context for the season opener, and my theory here is that the entire reason it was made in the first place was that they'd just finished Asylum of the Daleks by this point, realised that Amy and Rory's divorce storyline was probably going to garner a lot of criticism because there was no precedent for it, no build-up, and it was seemingly engineered entirely so the Doctor could spend the episode getting them back together. So they slapped this together at last minute, and now Pond Life exists essentially just to go, you see, there was precedent for their relationship falling apart. At least that's what I've been told when I've criticised Asylum of the Daleks in the past. Thing is though, Pond Life doesn't provide adequate context. Because it can't. The extreme tonal whiplash between parts 4 and 5 when the looming divorce enters the picture is fucking shattering.
Crazy adventure with the ponds! 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 They're splitting up!
The rest of it's just married life with aliens comedy skits. You don't see the divorce coming at all. I suppose it was mostly done like this because we hadn't really dwelt on Amy and Rory's life as a married couple that much before, so we actually have to believe it before it gets ripped apart at the start of Asylum of the Daleks. But did anyone honestly expect a series of 5 60-second comedy skits to coherently and believably tell the story of a married couple from fine to divorce? That is a huge thing for a couple to go through. That's an entire season of television there, not 5 wacky skits with an ood handing the characters their lunchboxes. Again, it's not totally clear whether or not that was Pond Life's intent, but that's what I kept being told whenever I'd start slating Asylum of the Daleks.
You had
that in
one
theory
job
it was
script.
supposed to do. I mean, for all we know, it's just, oh, we have a bit of money left over. Should we just put the Doctor on a surfboard?
We'll have to wait several years until To Entertain do like a massive 20-minute documentary remembering Pond Life. And, you know, you got Karen Gillan saying, well, it was just they invited us into this room and they just said, okay, just say some zany stuff when Matt comes in.
It was a complete disaster. It's a miracle anything got made.
Or hell, maybe they really think that this is like the moment that Matt Smith became the Doctor. You know that bit where, that bit where I go on the surfboard over the lava and there's the Sontarans. I just think that makes I look there's the Doctor. That's you see him at that point, and that's the Doctor. So yeah, that was pointless, but I understand why you'd get Chris to do it, because if you ask him to write something, he will do it to the best of his ability, but no matter how technically competent your writer is, this was never going to provide enough context for a divorce.
Really? The breaking up of Amy and Rory should have taken place, and their kind of attachment should have happened over the course of these 5 episodes, and just have them go off.
Yeah, it should have been. Essentially, I thought arcs were the point of Moffat's run on Doctor Who, but apparently not.
How amazing! How amazing would it be if they did that and it was like, so the Doctor has an event. They refuse to travel together, so the Doctor has an adventure each with like each of them. So they'll have one episode with Rory, one with Amy.
And then there's sort of like this serious breakdown moment in the middle of the episode where it's like, so how do you feel now that we're on this planet, on this spaceship with the dinosaurs? How do you feel, Rory, about the breakup? Let's have a serious discussion in the middle of all of this.
Whilst they're riding one of the dinosaurs.
But then,
again, that's what Doctor Who's for. That's what I want from the show.
Then at the end,
while they're riding one of the dinosaurs, so how are you feeling, Rory?
about the marriage.
About the marriage that's breaking down, yeah.
Right, the next 10 minutes are all John's. I'm assuming it's going to be at least 10 minutes.
Oh, what, this talk about the title sequence? Okay, so here we are with the 2010 Framestore animated title sequence that was produced in 2 weeks by the team at Framestore. And then they get Peter Anderson Studios to come in and put Instagram filters over it, shitty title cards with dissolving text. We go down this red tunnel and for some fucking reason we get a texture on the logo because we're going cinematic now. It is awful. Look at the terrible compression that has befallen the animation. Back to the episode.
What about the title sequence after this, though?
I have fond memories of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, as it was the second ever episode I covered on He Who Moans. My warm feelings towards it may have just been because it directly followed Asylum of the Daleks, and pretty much anything could have followed Asylum of the Daleks and come up smelling of roses, and that's doubly evident in this case because Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is a bit all over the place and doesn't seem to know when to stop having ideas.
Oh my god, there's so much stuff going on in this episode. There are so many things. Really, there's robots and dinosaurs and a spaceship and a countdown.
The thing about this episode is it's got lots of things.
So many
Loads of things. More things than the universe can actually fit.
Look at this little cluster of iron filings on the table. This is the same as the amount of things that are in this episode of Doctor Who. If you took out all of the intestinal tracts of every actor and dinosaur in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship and laid them from end to end, you'd get arrested and locked up by the police.
But it's important I do it now for science.
If this had been a 90-minute 4-part Old Who serial, I think this one could have potentially been, well, not a classic, so to speak, but it would have at least had the opportunity to give its 80 billion ideas more breathing room, because as is, it's essentially an exercise in chucking stuff in the viewer's face and hoping that at least one idea will have any impact. Lots of ideas, little cohesion between them. This idea of the Silurians creating a sort of Noah's Ark for dinosaurs is a really good one, but because the episode has got so much to do in 45 minutes, you gotta introduce Brian Williams as Rory's dad, who is lovely for the record and I really wish he'd been in more episodes, the Michelin web-voiced comedy robots, who are funny, but it's very obvious that they were shoehorned in at last minute for name pool, the dinosaurs themselves, the Silurian backstory, the different environments of the spaceship hosting different types of dinosaurs, Solomon. It's like the narrative embodiment of an 8-year-old kid on a sugar high playing with his action figures in a sandpit. And trying to fit such a huge and epic story with a broad scope into 45 minutes is something that I would never recommend doing. Some stories just don't suit this format, and Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is one of them. So all the episodes really got time to do is just shove these ideas in there and just do the basic framework recognisable from any episode of Doctor Who. Spaceship is crashing into Earth. Doctor needs to figure out how to stop it, and the music cue's gonna tell you when he's gonna start jabbering technobabble, and yay, the day is saved. Wow, I never saw that coming. It's not like it happens every fucking week. Now it's time to re-flimbify the slumpty-doo.
Oh, I love that bit.
Not the slumpty-doo.
The ship's doing a thing, and the splumby-doo.
Oh no, not the slumpty-doo!
What's happening to the ship's splumby-doo? He puts the homing thing on the table, and then the Splimpy-Doo does the etc.
And then the Sonic Badoo does the Kaboom-a-dee. And then we're done a day.
Kablamo-whams.
Until next weeky.
I feel like the shot where he's looking through is used in Asylum of the Daleks as well.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that entire shot setup is in Asylum of the Daleks.
And they reused the set, why not reuse the shots?
True.
Could just reuse the dialogue as well. And the
Just
footage.
do Asylum of the Daleks again, but like they literally like refilmed the whole thing.
Well, just do Asylum of the Daleks, but properly.
Yeah, do it properly this time.
Even though Dinosaurs wasn't so impressive, aside from the special effects, which are pretty damn good for a show on Doctor Who's budget, I suppose I am kind of encouraged by it because this is the best I could expect anyone to achieve when trying to cram this type of story into a 45-minute space. Chris's technical competence is still plainly evident, even though it's hidden behind the circumstances that have clearly hampered this project.
It's the first Doctor!
First Doctor!
Aren't all robots made of glass?
In a way.
Wait, so this has to be explained?
Yes, it needs to be explained. Why? Obviously, the Doctor's parents met this man, and the embryo of the Doctor was like, I need to be reminded of this man's face. Hence why the first Doctor looks like him, apparently, or something.
It's pink!
And now it's a pink logo with a horrible logo, a pink vortex with a horrible logo over the top of it. No one has any idea what colour theory is, apparently, and the logo and the vortex is now turning deep purple, which is actually a very nice colour, but it doesn't work when you're compressing your lovely animated footage like that. Here's Brian Williams. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Para 3 is one of the downright strangest episodes in the show's history, but not for any reasons of intent. Warrior's Gate was strange and was meant to be. Para 3 is strange because it both feels like a first draft that somehow managed to make it to shooting stage, but you can also tell that it's gone through many different permutations, and it only feels like a first draft because of what Chris was clearly asked to do with this one. So we got our premise, and it's a bloody good one that I would call Douglas Adams level sci-fi humour. An alien invasion of little black boxes that show up everywhere and don't appear to do anything. I love this! A boring interchangeable alien threat that doesn't even seem like a threat. That's a goldmine for sci-fi comedy and an interesting commentary on Doctor Who's Monster of the Week formula. And there is some of that gold in there as we flesh out a world responding to such an inexplicable alien presence.
Do you think with these like news broadcasts? Oh! Sorry.
The thing about cubes is they're really small.
The thing about the cubes is there's lots of them. Look at this bag of rice.
I forgot he was in this. That was such a treat. It was like, this is such an incredible finale because we've just been rewarded with that Brian Cox clip.
You know, if you want to know what these are, you're going to have to ask a better man than me. But it's just, yeah. It's a lovely set, Doctor.
I like the idea that whenever anything like inexplicable happens, like, the like news people are just like, oh, what should we do? Just get Brian Cox in.
Brian Cox, he'll know.
He knows everything.
He's good at talking about nothing.
But because Chris has been asked to write the penultimate Amy and Rory story, my theory is that he had the boxes idea written in a vague outline on a Word document and had about 25 minutes of underdeveloped material, and then when he was asked, he went back over it and shoved in these little contextual scenes between the Doctor, Amy and Rory in between the sci-fi comedy gold that he already had. And that's probably why the tonal whiplash is so fucking excruciating, because the cube stuff is so wonderful in every way, and then once every 5 minutes or so they just sort of stop the episode so the characters can go, so how do you feel, Amy? Everyone listen, this is a how do you feel moment.
Yeah.
Brian, it's the feelings. Them.
And then here it is. Like, it cuts to the shot and in the garden and he's just like, so how you feel?
I'm looking at a box. Isn't this what the episode's supposed to be about, Doctor?
Yeah, I kind of... That's a really odd setup. How did they end up in the garden together with Amy just staring at a box? What was the lead up to... Never mind.
It's like she's just gesturing like, Doctor, remember these? Have you figured this out yet? So what we've got here is essentially pond life.
She's just spilt yogurt all over the floor.
Yeah, she just dropped that yogurt, didn't she?
How do you feel now that you've dropped the yogurt?
Hey wife, how do you feel at you because we're married?
They got what they wanted. Who did? The cubes. That's why they stopped coming.
Oh, that's it. I remember what this episode was about now. It's so bloody frustrating because of just how damn good this idea is, but it's so flimsy because there are half-baked bits of idea and tidbits of scenes that have been threaded together so thinly that it just feels like a kid on a playground making it up as he goes along. Make them count down. What are they going to do when they finish counting down? They'd start killing everyone.
Here we go. This is it. From now on, it's no longer a redeemable episode.
Right, shall we just stop here then?
Because it's too painful.
That was just Ugly Chibnall time.
Okay, that was a great Snuggly Chibnall time.
Now I'm going to explain everything and make it worse. The episode started out good and now it is bad because here's the explanation, which is really disappointing.
Really, really weak.
Oh, look, it's an alien species doing a thing, which is boring. And we are... The seven. Yeah, that's 7 something.
7 portals in 7 minutes. But why?
Because 7 is better than 8, and your world, it's got the number 8 in it. And we don't like that.
Is that what it is? Is it because...
I'm preferring Stu's dub.
Fuck it, it should be. Whatever.
Because, like, at this point, because he just said we're serving the word of so-and-so, I didn't catch it. So it's like...
Who gives a fuck? It's pointless. This is what happens when you try and finish a half-baked idea in a hurry. It's like a Cliff Notes version of the story that this could have been, and it could have been bloody marvellous. See, there was an idea in that little sequence there that the rest of you missed, but I was paying attention to. It was the suggestion that it's part of a bizarre marketing campaign. And that I like. It should have been that. It should have been the aliens marketing something to the humans. It's
That's
just,
actually a great idea.
Yes.
It's just
That's
what
a really
is it?
good idea.
It's just what it... Maybe the cubes are like the aliens are trying to market something to the humans, but the humans can't conceive of it. So it's just like, what is this cube? We can't. It looks like something else in our dimension or something.
That's actually a brilliant idea.
That sounds a bit sci-fi for Doctor Who, Stu.
So it's like we can't conceive of it in our dimension, so it just looks like a cube. It's like
Yeah, and that's like a demonstration of all the things that the cube can do.
So yeah, I wouldn't call this his worst, because can you legitimately call something that feels this unfinished a product that you can actually rank alongside work that definitely was? A version of Para 3 that was finished could have been a classic if everyone on board had realised just how good the idea was, instead of using it as a vehicle to build a monument to the characters that we're going to boot out of the TARDIS next week. drag and drop. So I've got most of the script here. Okay, how are you feeling? Doctor stops. So Amy, how you feeling?
Just write the action
here,
bits in later.
Yeah. And and there's just a note that just says insert something here. And then
Brackets,
the doctor did a thing.
Brackets ad-lib? Question mark?
The thing about the emotions in Series 7 Part 1 is they have to be big.
But only in one episode.
And there's got to be lots of them. Maybe have lots of cubes. If you have lots of cubes and lots of emotions, that's like a thematic link. I'm just going by the Wikipedia page here, but apparently this came about when Stephen Moffat was telling Chris about Angels Take Manhattan, and he felt there was unfinished business with Brian Williams, but he felt it wouldn't fit with the ending to Angels Take Manhattan. So Chris suggested he could write a little scene for the DVD. This is fucking weird because, yes, PS essentially just apes the bit in Blink where Sally's friend vanishes and her grandson knocks on the door and gives her the letter. And, you know, it does it with the companion's father. But that kind of fits a lot better than the ending they actually went with.
Well, it's River in the TARDIS, isn't it? And the doctor's like, River, can you be my companion? And she's like, no. It's like,
no, that's not how... I gotta go...
Bye.
Yeah. So it's just left with the doctor. It's just a close-up on the doctor looking sad.
If PS had actually been made, if they'd had the idea for it while actually filming with Brian Williams and stuck him on the end of Angels Take Manhattan, then I'd see more of a point in it. But as is, it's a bit nothingy on the whole because it wasn't finished.
Brian, watering the plants, stops, looks around. The emptiness of the house.
He looks like he's in a hotel corridor.
Of Amy and Rory.
So yeah, I've come out of this project weirdly optimistic about the upcoming season, while not really changing any of my opinions on Chris's past work. Or even my general opinion of him as a writer. No, I've no idea how I've managed to flip from positive to negative while changing nothing else. It's really fucking weird. But I can safely say that what I've watched over the last few months is a seasoned professional who knows what he's doing. He's made mistakes, his writing's formulaic, he has his tropes, and it's nowhere near as compelling as it should be, but I can usually see a reason why he's done something and the thinking behind it. He's not pretentious, he knows his limits, and he's rarely inexplicable. Unfortunately, he's also rarely exciting, but he's clearly an analytical sort of guy, and what he's probably going to have done is look at what people like about Doctor Who in its current state, what they don't, and the internet has made it pretty easy to figure that out, and applied that to his formulaic writing. His daring decision to change the Doctor's gender is probably about as adventurous as he's gone, based on my understanding of his writing style and his approach to helming a project. I'd wager season 11 will be pretty safe on the whole. Not amazing, but it'll feel different enough purely by virtue of having the first female Doctor, and it'll probably have a bit of a broader appeal than Moffat's recent seasons, and get a decent enough reaction to keep the show going, and be a bit more culturally relevant. Chris may be so safe a pair of hands that people like me are loath to be excited about what he's probably done with the show, but while I started this project feeling disinterested by the safe pair of hands, I've ended up a bit more positive because at least I can see that Chris does know what he's doing, and while that may not be much, at least it's something. Yes, this has been the Chibnall commentary time snuggle with myself. Snuggly Chibnall time, yes, with me, Stuart Stewbagful.
I like how it's been weeks. I like how it's been weeks, Stuart. There's no development here in terms of confidence. I was expecting you to.
It's
slowly
my style,
get
Billy. It's my style.
I'm very much enjoying.
I have been Stuart, and you have been John and Billy.
Yes.
I have been.
All the way through.
I am making these outros terrible on purpose now, by this point.
I want you to get less comfortable.
This is snuggle chip time thing. So this thing has been the snuggle chip time. With
This is what everyone listens for, isn't it? The professionalism.
Who have I been joined with this snuggle chip time?
It's me, Billy.
And John. Anyway, thank you for listening, people who are listening to this. This has been the outro-duction. There we go. Welcome to Snuggly Chibnall time. Snuggle chip time.
Chips, snug time.
You have been two people. I have been Stuart and Bagful, and you have been listening to.
And Bagful.
There's two of us.
I never realised there were two entities.
I have been Stuart Bagful, and you have been listening to Snuggly Chibnall time. Have you been Snuggly? Have you been Chibnalled?
So
Who knows? It's been Chibnally. Anyway, bye people. Thank you for listening to this thing. Please turn your computer off now. Okay.
Just unplug it.